There we go. So generally setup wise, we said lesson 1, you're a bit too narrow. Lesson 3 now, a bit too wide.
Yeah.
It's finding that middle ground. I think if we can just keep on top of that sort of fundamentals of setup, width of stance obviously key,
Yeah.
roughly about shoulder width, what we're looking for, where you've got that. We're sort of 7, 8, 9 and 5. And it can fluctuate a little bit. We're talking like a few inches. It's not going to be a big move there you've got. And the hands now, as you can see, nicely kind of just up that left arm. This was okay, but just a bit too wide. And because you were so wide, your head was a long way behind. Okay. Then when you try to swing the golf club here now, okay, couldn't really move your lower half, so your top half now starts moving quite a lot to the left. You see just shadow there moving quite a bit there. You're moving to try and get back to that golf ball because your lower half being like so, you can't really move. And then an impact in this case, we can see your head now kind of just on top of the golf ball, just about, okay, just getting a bit too far this way. Where you look at this one here now, you get behind the golf ball there now. You can now unwind your body, head's not moving at all. There's a nice little shift to the lower half. There's impact. There's your head. And there's your hands. Nice kind of like bookend the golf ball. Where your hands are just slightly in front, head's just slightly behind. And with all things, whether it's kicking a football, rugby ball, throwing it, hitting it, whatever it may be, this needs to be behind the golf ball. If this starts moving too much to the left, either because you're in the ground behind the ball and you want to try and change your low point, or because your stance is too wide and you just can't move your lower half and you just want to, I've got to move somewhere, so we move this half of the body, okay? If we can get a little bit narrower, we can move that lower half to the golf ball, keep your head behind the ball and get those hands on the club in the right impact spot. It gives you that freedom for your arms to kind of release through this way, okay? You see a nice little free swish of the club there now, your arms extending through nicely from lesson 1, it's sort of very tucked up swing one, that's trying to sort of like please go left kind of thing, and you've got a nice release of that club there now. The one thing I'm going to suggest, and I'll explain in a bit more detail here on this in visual, but just to show you one here's a reminder, sometimes when you're trying to do a shorter swing, your club gets what we call a little bit kind of steep and picky-uppy, rather than kind of swinging around your body. I think a little bit is going to come from when you were wider stance, couldn't really turn, so you kind of swung a bit up this way, and then that way. There wasn't really much of a twist or a rotation. We want the club to work a little bit more kind of around your body a bit more, rather than steep and choppy, yeah? I think some of the shots you said on the range last time, hit the ground behind the ball quite heavy. The wider stance restricts hip movement. The steeper swing is going to encourage a steeper angle of attack. If you move the ball further back in the stance to try and hit the ground where the ball moves back to each time, you're going to get some variety of steepness into the ball even more. So down, 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 and then it's just, it's a vicious circle. And the more you move the ball back, the worse it gets, yeah? So getting that set up better, always just remember with the stance being sort of shoulder width. And it's worth often putting this club on the ground is to give you that sort of checkpoint. So you just start looking at the visual. From your right eye looking down there, you'll see your hands kind of over your left foot roughly, yeah? Get a vision of what they should look like there. If they're sort of back here and your hands are over there, so if I did a wide stance with my hands here, now my left hand looks way left of my left foot because I'm so far back here, yeah? So just making sure you know what a good setup looks like, because obviously on a golf course, we can't use those crosshairs. They're there to help us, but at the same time we've got to get used to sort of like taking the stabilisers off, I suppose, and playing the shots there. So good backswing, okay. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail with that being less steep, a bit more around your body. I think when you try and do a shorter swing, you sort of stop here and just sort of lift the club a little bit there with your wrist, yeah? So it's a bit kind of steep, and that's going to cause a little bit steeper swing coming down. If the setup is good and you stay behind the ball, you're able to, I won't say get away with, that's the wrong word to use, but you're able to hit a good shot from that position. If the setup's poor and you're perhaps trying to do a fuller swing, the contact won't quite be so good. Okay? That kind of makes sense, then, yeah? Good stuff, right? Okay, mate.